Welcome to the final Pension Confident Podcast of 2023. To round off the year, we're going to talk about something we have all done, taken a financial decision that we've later regretted. Now, Christmas is nearly here, and as we all know, this is the time when it can be oh so easy to go overboard on spending, which is great until your bank statement or credit card bill shows up in January. And that's what got us thinking about financial mistakes. We all make them, little ones like lending a friend a tenner and knowing you're never going to see it again. Or for some, a really huge, long-lasting mistake like spending all your savings on a property only to realise it will never be the dream home you thought it would be.
I spent and spent and spent. So then suddenly I racked up like £16,000 worth of debt.
Shopping and purchasing, impulse buys. There's so many similarities to actually a real, addiction.
It's also important to identify what your triggers are. So
Yeah.
subscribing from mailing lists from your favourite retailer, because the emails are being like, Ola, I hope you're having a lovely week. Here's your 20% treat off. And I'm like, a treat on my Wednesday? Like, I didn't know I deserved that.
Now, even money experts can screw up every now and again. The good news is we can all learn from our mistakes. And the more we know about financial pitfalls, the better equipped we'll be to avoid making more mistakes. And speaking of experts, we have three in the studio to talk us through some of their own money mishaps and what they learned from them. First, let's welcome back Mrs. MummyPenny, Lynn Beattie. Nice to see you, Lynn.
Thank you for having me again.
Founder of financial literacy platform All Things Money, Ola Majekodunmi, is here with us too. Welcome, Ola.
Hello. Again, thank you for having me as well.
And joining us again, podcast regular and PensionBee CMO, Jasper Martens. Hi, Jasper.
Back again.
Now, look, as I always say before we start, please remember that anything discussed on this podcast should not be regarded as financial advice or legal advice when investing. Your capital is at risk. Now, just to prove that everyone trips up over money at least once, we asked the lovely people at PensionBee to confess to their most embarrassing mistakes when it came to money, the things they did before they learned better. Here they are.
I bought clothes from a fake website and they just never arrived.
I was paying off a credit card for years and being charged interest before realising I could just transfer the balance to a 0% deal.
I bought a second-hand car without doing any research and then found there was loads wrong with it, and so had to spend hundreds of pounds getting it repaired.
When my partner lost his job, we didn't apply for financial support because we knew our landlord would find out and we panicked. We now regret not talking to someone who could help.
I cashed out 2 small workplace pensions in my early 20s, and now that I'm older, I'm really kicking myself that I didn't just leave them invested.
I used to be really bad with streaming subscriptions. I'd sign up for a free trial because I wanted to watch something in particular, but would then forget to cancel it, and then the cost would really add up.
All sorts of mistakes there. A big thank you to everyone who was brave enough to share theirs with us. But look, with Christmas around the corner, it can be tempting to overspend, on ourselves and others. Have you got finances really wrong around Christmas ever? I certainly did when I was younger.
Definitely the spending without a budget, because again, without a budget, then you can easily spend so much more money than you originally planned.
Because it's that thing, isn't it? Of Christmas is Christmas. It feels like a big event. You kind of have to go big. But it's not the only one, is it? It's all sorts of occasions where you feel quite a lot of social pressure to spend.
Yeah.
Things like weddings. I was thinking about attending weddings.
Mm-hmm.
That sort of thing.
I've certainly had situations where I was invited for a really nice wedding in Italy.
And were they offering to pay?
Well, unpopular opinion, they're no longer friends, because I don't believe that friends who invite you for those weddings are the ones you should go for as friends.
But it's hard, isn't it? Because there is that
It's the
social pressure, particularly with friends.
Yeah.
You kind of feel like you're being really mean if you don't. I'm thinking about things like children's birthdays as well. That's something that, you feel, if you have kids, I do, that you feel that pressure to spend. And particularly if other people are spending big on their kids' parties, maybe you should be doing this too.
Yeah, I think the comparison of what other people do is really tough when you're a parent. I've got 3 boys, and so they're getting a bit older, and presents seem to get more expensive as they get older.
Yeah.
And you might buy, what I find is I might buy a couple of things, and then it's like, oh, I'm going to buy another thing, and then another thing. And then suddenly you've blown the budget, if there was even a budget.
And did there really need to be that much stuff?
No, probably not.
These are all good thoughts, but I'm thinking about shopping more generally. And it seems to me that half the trouble is it is so easy to shop now. And, there's a real danger of stacking up debt with over shopping, isn't there? I mean, Lynn, you have spoken so openly about your problems with debt in the past. We talked to you about it. I think it was episode 10, wasn't it? We talked about it. Remind people who haven't heard your story, because it's such a useful thing to hear.
So I got myself into quite a lot of trouble because it was almost like keeping up with the Joneses. I wanted to go on that holiday. I wanted that handbag. I wanted those clothes. I was caught up in what my friends were doing, like what people were doing who I worked with. I spent and spent and spent. But the problem with that was I'd finished a job, set up my own company, Mrs. MummyPenny, and my income just didn't match. It went right down. So I was still spending the same. So then suddenly I racked up like £16,000 worth of debt, which pains me to say it. And it literally was because I wanted to go to Las Vegas on holiday, and it's like, why was those thoughts going through my head? Why did I have to do that?
And maybe those friends who are going to Las Vegas on holiday are earning a lot more than you. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? We measure ourselves against everyone we know. But we're earning different amounts of money, aren't we?
I sometimes compare shopping and purchasing impulse buys almost like a cigarette addiction. Like once you start smoking, you keep on smoking because you really enjoy it, right? But actually, we know it's actually bad for us. Yeah, there's so many similarities to actually a real, addiction.
And of course, let's be honest about it. That's what retail is for. They want you to do that. I mean, the whole industry is about you doing that impulse purchase, buying that second thing, particularly online. I'm a massive online shopper. And the click and into the basket. I mean, it's just the work of a moment, isn't it? And then before you know it, you press, buy, and you haven't really looked at the total.
No, exactly. I think now shopping online and in person has become so frictionless that you don't have to get your painful cash out. You don't have to, get your card out anymore. It's literally just a tap on your phone, or it's a tap of a button. Or now I was even doing a shop the other day, and I could, on my phone, I could just pay through Apple Pay. So you don't even have to think about using them PayPal or even anything else, because Apple Pay is just now available on your phone too.
I know. I was going to say that, because Apple Pay, PayPal, they're all so great, but Apple Pay that's one to watch.
It's the weakness, isn't it?
But without wishing to denigrate Apple Pay, it is, the risk there, it's just literally a tap and you're done.
Yeah. A wine retailer, which I will not mention in this episode, did send me a voucher last week to get £20 off my Christmas shop if I spent £150 or more on my wine purchase. Do you see what's happening there? So that's what I did. I went to the website and I kind of filled up my basket.
It's dangerous.
It's dangerous. I decided not to click to buy yet. I just pause it for at least a day, especially when it's over £100. I kind of feel I need to just think about this. Maybe call me an overthinker, but usually I'm cooled off the next day.
The most important lesson to take away from these sales is that it was never a sale or a bargain if you were never planning on buying it.
This is so true. This is so. I want to hear what it's about. Actually, before we get there, I need to ask Lynn, how did you pay that debt off?
I basically stopped my life for 2 years, which was really, really hard.
The things we're talking about.
I didn't buy any clothes. I didn't buy any makeup. I love makeup.
Okay.
I had to have the conversation with my children, which was really, really hard, and which I know a lot of people shy away from.
So how old were they at this point?
So my children at the time, they were 11, 9 and 6.
So they're kind of old enough to understand.
Old enough. And I've always been open and honest with my children about money from the very beginning. But I was like, so at the moment, Mummy has some debt, and I have to work on paying it off. So it is going to mean that we're not going to be able to go on holidays. That's sort of what I did. And I had things like no spend months, which were really quite difficult. But it was short-term pain for long-term gain.
So how long did it take?
It took 2 years to pay it off. I will never get to that position again.
Good lesson for your kids too.
Exactly. Yeah. Good lesson, yeah.
Hi, it's me, Philippa, just interrupting briefly to remind you to click on that subscribe button so you never miss an episode of the Pension Confident podcast. Remember to share, rate and review too. And now I'll leave you to enjoy the rest of this month's conversation. Happy listening. Back to tips before we move on, because thinking about this whole putting stuff in your basket and not clicking buy is a really, really good one. And the thing you said, Ola, about, a sale, well, it's not really a sale, is it? And I'm always worried about things like Black Friday. I know there are really great bargains to be had, but it draws you in to buying stuff that you had not got in mind to buy at all.
No.
Working in marketing, I also know from quite a lot of other brands how that whole process works behind the scene. A Black Friday deal in vast majority of cases is not a deal. It's been priced at that particular price point. It then was bumped up in price, probably in August or September.
Because there's a time frame, isn't there? How long it has to be at that previous price.
And then suddenly it's Black Friday and we're all going for it. And every year we're all falling for it too.
Yeah.
But in vast majority of cases, that has been on the shelves for that price for probably quite a long time.
There's a couple of websites where you can check. So say if you're specifically looking for an item, let's say a shark hoover, you can pop the details of that product into, there's either Camel or Idealo. You pop in the product details and it will give you all the pricing history. So you know exactly what's happened to the price going up. And you will see on that Black Friday period of time.
Marketeers caught out.
For sure.
They're really useful websites and apps.
What do we think about sales generally? Is that the same? Like department store sales, shop sales,
I think it's about
sales.
What do you want to buy and what are you buying for? Like, it's so easy to just shop the sales because something's on sale. But I think going into the new year, what do you want to purchase? Is anything that you're looking for in particular? Like for me, I always look at maybe if there's any deals on flights and things like that. Whereas when it comes to clothes are on sale all year round.
Okay, so we're resisting that kind of emotional boost of the buying.
Is it worth touching on emotional spending though? Because that's something that I've really struggled with my whole life, is when you're feeling sad or feeling happy or feeling angry, my sort of go-to position has been spend some money on something. If it's, I don't know, a lipstick or an item of clothing, where actually if you can employ, this is what I'm trying to do now, I'm trying to be more mindful about it, is maybe go out for a walk or go for a run or go to the gym or stroke your dog or your cat. Just do something that takes your mind off that immediate dopamine reaction of I have to buy something.
Yeah, distraction. Don't give in to the marketeers like Jasper.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting, like you said, Lynn, I think it's also important to identify what your triggers are. So what has triggered you to make you feel sad, or what has made you feel so low in that moment that you feel the need to shop? I had to talk about this with my clients a lot, and sometimes it's about setting barriers in place. So like deleting all the shopping apps off your phone and subscribing from mailing lists from your favourite retailer, because the emails is what catches you on being like, Ola, I hope you're having a lovely week. Here's your 20% treat off. And I'm like, a treat on my Wednesday? Like, I didn't know I deserved that. And again, it's things like that. So it's, you know, putting those barriers in place to hopefully curb that impulse spending too.
Disable Apple Pay or similar things if it comes to it.
I think so.
Temporarily, you know, if you need to do that. Sometimes it does seem to me that sometimes our biggest mistakes can be just not paying enough attention to our finances because, you know, we're busy, aren't we? We prioritise other stuff. If we're honest, if our money situation is not where it should be, it's avoidance as well, isn't it? I mean, you don't look because you don't want to look because you know you're not going to like what you see. You're all, you know, well-organised financial people, but I'm wondering whether you're aware of anything right now in your lives that you haven't got your eye across and you kind of know it's costing you more than it should be, because I've definitely got one. I know that I should have changed my utility supply, my gas supply. I haven't done it yet.
I've got some leakage in my bank accounts. So we're talking about monthly subscriptions and stuff.
Yeah.
I have subscribed to a nice wireframe solution for work. It's actually a work piece of software. It's $9.99 a month. And it's like, I actually should expense it through work, but it's coming out of my personal. I use my personal card when I signed up, and it's every month it just says hello, $9.99. So it's
adds up, doesn't it?
If you and I've got a few of those, and actually if I would do, maybe I should do that this afternoon. If I actually would take control, it probably would save me £40-50 a month. That is quite a lot of money.
Yeah, it is. Like we said about unsubscribing subscriptions, I'm not even embarrassed to admit this, but I signed up to a language learning app earlier this year to learn a new language for my trip. And I signed up for the free subscription and completely forgot to cancel it, and it's cost me £60 for the year.
Yeah.
But I did say
I do that with newspapers. I sign up for the 3 months free, but I have learned my lesson there. And what I do is I put a calendar reminder
and I'm always so good at it. And this time round, I just completely forgot.
So say you've got maybe 4 or 5 subscriptions that you could do without, that you could cancel. So maybe that's like £40 a month. That is nearly £500 a year. So if you just spent half an hour going through your subscriptions and cancelling those 4 or 5, I know it's hassle to do it, but it's a few clicks.
It's worth it.
£500, you know, when are you ever going to get paid £500 for half an hour's worth of work?
And it is time, isn't it? Because thinking about things like auto renew on things like insurance or utility payments, I mean, we kind of all know we should be shopping around, but that is not an instant thing to do, is it? You sit down, you get the thing saying it's going to renew next month, and you think, I must shop around, see if there's something better.
You pay for the ease. I used to work for an insurance company, and although I wasn't involved in the insurance, but the auto renewal on the insurance premium, you as a customer, you're paying more. Because you're being on an auto renewal. Yeah. And insurers know that. Yeah. So swapping every year when the renewal comes up, and there are many comparison websites where you can do that. They are more than happy to welcome you with open arms. Yeah. And what happens with insurance also happens with mobile phones and others. Yep. Simply texting your PAC code to your current mobile phone provider and say, can I get my PAC code, my PAC code? That basically means I'm leaving and I want to take my number. Alarm bells will go off, you will get a ring, and your renewal is probably half the price.
And I've learned to negotiate. I mean, I did not used to do that. So when they send you your renewal and you've shopped around and think, actually, it is probably lower than anything else, I still get on the phone to them then and say, well, I think I can do better than this. Yeah, and they always take a bit of money.
They always find a special little deal for you.
They do. And then there's the things that we don't even think about, like bank accounts. I mean, no one ever changes their bank account.
I do. I love a change.
But most people do not, do they? No. I mean, we stick with them lifelong, even though the market is much more diverse and sophisticated now. Yeah. And I know, because you told me before, Jasper, you've got a savings account story, haven't you?
You're absolutely right. People don't change bank accounts. We also see that people are also reluctant to change pension provider. It's just it's a thing, isn't it? And you want to think twice before you do it. I mean, with savings accounts, I opened up a few years ago an account with Marcus and, get interest rates. Yeah, so lots of people did. But what usually happens with savings account is over time, those interest rates might not be as appealing. And just looking around to shop for, can you get a little bit more? Especially now with inflation high, your money is kind of like getting worth less and less. So you want to make sure you get some interest on it. So I moved it to a Monzo account now. I bank with Monzo, so it was very convenient to me to move it from a Marcus to a Monzo. But Nationwide now has a really good deal. I mean, you do need to shop around. Do you have to change it every single month?
I was going to say, how often? What are we thinking?
I'd say a few times a year.
Okay.
Like you said, like I invest. It gets sometimes like an hour of your time on a Sunday afternoon.
It's literally like log into a comparison website, just tell them what you're looking for. Within 5 seconds, it's already an option, and just as simple as a transfer. So it's so easy these days.
And you've got to just invest that time, even if it's an hour each quarter. Lynn, I know you like changing bank accounts. You've told me about it in the past. There's some really great welcome bonuses available, and I mean,
and I've
more about that.
I was always quite, I don't think this is going to work. So I've been trying this in the last year, and I hate to admit, but I've switched my main account 3 times now
in a year.
But I've got 200 quid for each time I've transferred.
It's such good money.
Isn't it?
The transfer sort of cash bonuses now for swapping your bank account is really quite generous. Yeah. And they do all the switching of the direct debits for you, and nothing's ever gone wrong. So why would you not do it?
It's a 7-day switching guarantee. And
exactly. And that is solid, is it? Because I've got to say that is the thing that in my head stands in the way. I'm thinking, do I believe them when they say that all my payments will be moved on?
I did it.
Will they all be there? And will it all work? And it does work?
It does. It does work.
It worked. My salary also was paid into my new account. That's always my biggest...
Yeah, especially if you're feeling the pinch towards Christmas. I think there's no better time than to switch now, especially if you need an extra £200. I mean, I felt the pinch in the summer where I was going on like a holiday to Ibiza, and I was like, Ola, how are you going to get your spending money? So I switched and I got £200 just before I flew.
So how much bother is it to close down your old account?
Well, you don't do anything.
Because I have not done this for a while.
It literally takes you 5 minutes.
Yeah. They do it all for you.
Yes. Okay. I remember when I switched from HSBC to Monzo, I think that took me 5 minutes on the Monzo app. You do it with the new provider.
But it's also what you're saving or what you're investing, isn't it? Because I'm thinking about, you mentioned pensions. I'm thinking about savings accounts as well. It's not just where is it, it's how much am I putting into it?
Yes.
Because particularly with pensions, I really do think this is that people feel, I've got one, it's all good, I never need to think about it again until I need the money.
Yeah.
But you should be keeping your eye across it, shouldn't you? And thinking, can I put a bit more in?
Yeah.
Or, is it working for me?
Times are tough. So I'm not here today to say thou shalt put as much money in your pension as possible, especially when we're all feeling the cost of living and people feeling the pinch. I think there's a couple of things you ought to be looking at, and we've talked about this in previous episodes, is lots of people have tiny pots everywhere.
Yeah.
And if you don't know where they are, or you know where they are, you don't know exactly how much is in them. I mean, it's probably a good thing to get that into one place for sure. At least you know how much you've got. All the pensions can be quite expensive as well. That's not always talked about, but more, I would call them legacy providers, or AKA steam-powered pension policies.
Very diplomatic.
Yes,
Diplomatic.
they can be quite expensive, and actually just moving them to a new home might actually save you money on the management fees.
It's knowing what you've got, isn't it? I think, whatever you choose to do about providers and all the rest of it, I'm studying everything you're saying about that. But whatever it is, I think it is understanding how much you've got. Because I'm pretty sure, you've probably done research on this, that if you were to ask people who do have pensions, have you any idea what's going on with your pension right now? Or even really how much you're putting into it they won't know, will they?
Vast majority don't. They don't know how much the employer pays into their pension, because most of us now who are employed have a workplace pension. They don't answer the question. If they ask them how much are you charged for your pension plan, most people don't.
And you need to know, don't you? I know this is a subject close to Lynn's heart, because you were a bit of a late starter on the pension front, weren't you?
Yeah.
and it's all right. You've done it now.
Yeah.
Don't beat yourself up.
But it's my biggest financial regret, because I didn't put any money at all into my pension in my 20s. Nobody took the time out to explain it to me. So I was like, that's too far down the line. Like, I don't need to worry about that. So I'm going to stop. I actually stopped those contributions. And if I worked out how much that was worth, it's potentially like
you don't
six
think
figures.
about it, do you?
So I had to start from scratch at the age of 30. And I'm paying for it now, because I'm having to put bigger chunks into my pension now.
When I joined PensionBee, I didn't know a pension cost money. So I work in the pensions industry. I had no idea I was charged a fee on my pension.
Did you really not know that?
No, I had no idea. I thought my boss was paying for that.
Well, most people wouldn't, though, would they? No. I mean, again, where is that rule book that says this is how much you're paying towards your pension and how much it costs you? So again, that's why platform fees are so so important, especially when you're looking at switching up your pension.
So be in the know.
Should we move on to the really big financial mistakes now? I mean, we've talked about stuff that matters, but I'm thinking about the really painful ones that can affect you for years. Mind you, having said that, Lynn, I mean, what you've said, your pension, I mean, that was a long mistake, wasn't it, actually, in the sense that you have to pay for it now.
In terms of actual money, that's probably my biggest financial mistake. But I've made plenty others, so we can talk about them.
I love it. I love the honesty in the room, the end of year honesty in the room. Mm-hmm. Can we remember our first big purchase that we all made? Did it go smoothly? Did it go well?
I can't think of like my biggest that went badly. Like a long time ago. I mean, I say that as a 26-year-old. But last year I did invest on a designer handbag, and that designer brand got cancelled literally a week or two as soon as I bought it. So I haven't yet took it out of the house.
What do you mean it got cancelled?
Oh, it got slated, and I'm not even going to mention the brand.
No, we are not. We are definitely not.
We're
not. Say the brand name on
this. They got cancelled, and I think a lot of people who understood the scandal know exactly who I'm talking about. And it's yet to leave the house.
It's an interesting story about designer handbags. I'll do it quickly. But I spent an uncomfortable amount of money on a designer handbag last year. It was an emotional impulse purchase. Okay. So I thought
you'd stop doing that, Lynn. You just told us you stopped doing that. Okay.
It's a really difficult thing to get in control of. I have to. I'll open up like it's something I struggle with.
No judgment.
So I bought this handbag. I took it home and I showed my kids. And my eldest son said to me, "That's like a third of a holiday." And just that one sentence, I took that bag back. And got my money back. So
wow, your son said that.
I'm listening to you two talk about investing in designer handbags. I'm sorry, I'm going to say, because we made a podcast recently about how, women are much less likely to invest at all, than men. And we dug into the reasons of why that was. It was all very interesting. But I mean, there are other big decisions that people make when they're quite young. I'm thinking about university here, actually.
Yeah.
That is a big investment, isn't it? You don't necessarily think about it that way when you just go and take the loans and, rack up all that debt. But that's the thing to think about, isn't it? Because there's so many other routes of entry now into all sorts of careers.
I agree. I honestly wouldn't have gone to university had I felt well equipped to take another route.
Really?
Yeah. I really wanted to do like an internship or an apprentice. But my school really did put a big emphasis on supporting people who are going to university rather than those going to do the apprenticeship route. So if I wanted to do an apprenticeship, I had to find those apprenticeships myself.
Yeah.
I had to actually understand what that was, and I didn't know.
That's a big ask about age, isn't it?
Massive, especially now that I look at my sister who's that age. I'm like, wow, that is so young. And at the time, the only apprenticeships I came across was in finance. And I didn't want to work in, it's funny, I work in finance business now, but
and here she is.
Yeah, I definitely didn't want to go down the route of finance at the time. I don't have regrets on university now, but I am in £65,000 worth of debt, plus interest.
Wow.
It's a big debt, isn't
A lot.
Thinking about sizable errors, property is the one that's come into my mind now. Renting, buying. Thoughts on common mistakes there?
I don't think I've ever been in a position where I've made like a really sensible property decision.
You've never made a sensible property decision?
I don't, like the first house I bought it when the market was at a high, and then when I sold it the market was at a low, so I made like 10 grand profit on a property that I owned for 5 years. And the next property I bought it with my ex-husband, then I got divorced, so then had to like increase my mortgage proportionately to buy him out. So I feel like I don't have much equity in my name because I just haven't made the right decisions about property. Like I'm 46, so I speak to some people in their 40s that are mortgage free. Like I'm like, I can't get my head around how you can be mortgage free. Well, I've got 300 grand mortgage left to pay and I'm 46.
Sometimes you have to sell and you have to sell and you have to buy and you have to buy, don't you?
Yeah.
There isn't always the opportunity to be completely rational.
Yeah.
And I think this is why buying is such a hard topic, because me being a 26-year-old, all of my friends' goals in life is to buy a property. Again, I think it's fueled more by peer pressure or societal pressures that make you feel like you have to buy, when really it actually might not be the best decision you can make right then, right now.
A house is to live in, and many people make the assumption that their house is going to be their pension, or it's going to be the investment they're going to make. Like you said, Lynn, most people will have a really big mortgage attached to it to actually purchase that property. It's actually not yours, it's from the bank. So I would say with a property, one of the biggest mistakes you can make is on one, you see it as your investment. Well, actually, there's other investments too in life, like an investment account or a pension or anything else in life. So it's one of the options you've got available to you. And then also very practically with a house. I'm a house owner. Do not invest in a very fancy bathroom or a very fancy kitchen that will go out of fashion in 2 or 3 years.
So true.
Something is a bit more timeless. This is a more practical side of things.
Have you done that, Jasper?
Yes, I have.
We are running out of time, but I think it's interesting, Lynn, you talked about marriage and divorce and the cost that can involve, you having to up your mortgage. I've been there myself. All these things can get very, very expensive. I think what I took from that, and I don't know what you all think about this, is the importance of having really good financial conversations with anyone you are financially connected to.
Yeah.
Whether it's a husband, a flatmate, a friend, a family member of any kind. Yeah.
I think from the moment particularly a relationship is getting serious, is have that financial conversation and almost like marry up your money mindsets, because I was married to a spender and I was a spender.
Yeah.
That's a really dangerous combination. Don't be afraid to do it, because marrying the wrong person is a really expensive mistake. Not just because of all the assets that have to be split, but getting divorced costs a lot of money.
And which people don't talk about either, do they? I think also going back to the early stages of dating, a lot of people don't ask them about their money spending habits. And again, they think that's weird that you'd ask them on the date, but I think it's really important to know. I think it's a really important question.
Would you ask that on the first date, though?
First date, maybe not, but third and fourth.
We did make a whole podcast about how your how your relationship's going to impact on your finances, but it is always worth saying. And it isn't just romantic relationships, is it? It's all
friendships, I think, is the biggest one as well. I think trying to keep up with certain friendships sometimes can also be really, really hard. Don't want to get into debt just to keep up with your friends, or your real friends anyway. It shouldn't be an issue.
You shouldn't have to. That is a really, really good point. And it plays into something we always say: good financial conversations. Just don't push money under the carpet, right?
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. It was a great discussion. We've heard about so many different things there that can go wrong.
Yes.
But now we all know what to watch out for, right? Once more, please do remember, anything discussed on the podcast shouldn't be regarded as financial advice or legal advice. And when investing your capital is at risk, we will be back with you in the new year for Series 3 of our award-winning podcast. And what better way to start than with a dream that may be in one of your own New Year's resolutions, starting your own business. And we've got exciting news. If you've got the PensionBee app, you can now listen to the Pension Confident podcast on our brand new in-app player. So why not catch up on all our episodes while you check up on your pension? If you're finding the podcast useful, please do leave us a rating and write us a quick review in your app. You know, we always love to hear your thoughts. So until January, a very Merry Christmas from all of us on the podcast and the PensionBee team. See you next year.